I'm Lori, 68.
Sitting in my new home's garden, watching the sunrise paint the mountains, I can't help but reflect on the journey that led me here. It all came to a head at a family dinner a couple of years ago, a moment that changed my life forever. I'd been invited to my son Ethan's house for what seemed like a simple family gathering. When I arrived, his wife, Ava, greeted me with a fake smile. The house was filled with the smell of a fancy dinner, and everything looked perfect. My grandchildren, Lily and Max, were there, and for a moment, I let myself believe it could be a normal family evening. But as dinner progressed, Ethan dropped a bombshell. Mom, Ava, and I think it's time you consider moving to a senior living community. We're worried about you living alone. I was stunned. I tried to reason with them, saying I had neighbors and could call for help if needed. But Ava was relentless. She'd already done her research and found a place called Meadowbrook Estates. She talked about how it would relieve their stress and how they could visit when they had time, which, based on recent events, would probably be hardly ever. I told them I needed to think about it. Then, I decided it was time to reveal the truth. I reached into my purse and pulled out a photocopy of the lottery ticket I'd won. "This is from the night you left me on the street with just $10, I said calmly. Their expressions changed instantly. Ethan picked up the paper, his eyes scanning the numbers. When he realized it was the winning ticket for a $62 million jackpot, his face went pale. Ava looked genuinely shaken. They started stuttering, trying to come up with excuses. Ethan said they'd made mistakes, but I knew it was too little, too late. I showed them a folder filled with documents of all the times they'd treated me poorly, and I told them about the changes I'd made to my will. The children would get a modest trust fund for education, and the rest would go to charities for abandoned elderly people. I also presented them with a detailed account of all the money I'd spent supporting their family over the years. As I stood up to leave, they begged me to stay and work things out. But I knew I couldn't go back. I'd been taken for granted for far too long. I walked out of that house, leaving behind a lifetime of unappreciated sacrifices. Let me take you back to how it all started. I'd worked as a school librarian for 40 years, saving every penny to help Ethan through college. His father had left when he was young, and I'd raised him on my own. I'd always been there for him and his family, babysitting Lily and Max for free, helping with their mortgage payments, and funding their vacations. One day, my apartment needed to be fumigated, and I asked if I could stay with them for a few days. Ava flat out refused, saying I'd disrupt their routine. Ethan just sat there, not saying a word to defend me. Then, she threw $10 at me and told Ethan to drive away, leaving me on a strange street corner. I was devastated, but I had to figure out how to get home. The buses had stopped running, and I didn't have enough money for a taxi. I walked to a convenience store, where I saw a lottery machine. I'd never been a gambler, but something inside me snapped. I used the $5 to buy a lottery ticket. It was a long shot, but I felt a sense of defiance. When I got home, I tried to put the whole thing behind me. But a week later, I checked the lottery numbers and couldn't believe my eyes. I'd won $62 million. I decided not to tell anyone right away. I wanted to see how they'd treat me without knowing about my new-found wealth. Over the next few weeks, they kept testing me. Ava texted me, saying it was all a joke and asking me to have dinner with them. Ethan called, asking me to babysit, not because he missed me, but because they needed a favor. I said no every time. Then I had chest pains. I called Ethan from the hospital, hoping he'd be there for me. But he said it wasn't a good time, and Ava suggested I see a therapist. They didn't even offer to let me stay with them for a few days to recover. That's when I knew I had to make a change. I hired a lawyer and started making arrangements. I wanted to protect myself from their greed and ingratitude. I tested them one more time by asking to stay with them again, and they refused once more. After that family dinner, I drove home in peace. For the first time in a long time, I felt free. I'd chosen myself over a family that didn't value me. Now I have a new life. I've made friends with my neighbor, Mrs. Thompson, a 75-year-old retired nurse. We go to the farmers market together every Saturday. I volunteer at the local senior center, teaching others about financial independence. I've also started dating a kind man named George. I sometimes get messages from Lily. She misses me, and it breaks my heart, but I know I made the right decision. I've set up trust funds for her and Max, so they know I still love them. Looking back, I don't regret leaving. I've learned that sometimes you have to walk away from those who can't see your worth. I hope Lily and Max will remember that love should be based on respect and appreciation. And to those of you listening to my story, if you were in my place, what would you do?